Gene, first and foremost, where were you when you heard the news about Ozzy?
I was in Malibu, away from the noise and the sort of the problems of the world. But you can't avoid this. Uh, it immediately hit everywhere. Everybody was calling me, and rightfully so, because Ozzy meant so much to millions and millions of fans. And the first time I met Ozzy and Sabbath was 50 years ago when we were both starting out. And I will tell you that the the impact, no matter what you say, no matter what idiots like me say, the eulogy for Ozzy should be written by the fans. This is a man who invented Ozzy. There was no Ozzy before Ozzy. He's a singularity scientists talk about. There never was a person like that on stage, the Prince of Darkness. He invented himself.
What was it like when you first got into that Ozzy sphere, that universe that is Ozzy?
We came a little bit after, about 6 months after Sabbath started out. So we were opening for Sabbath. It was in Boston, I believe. But both of us had yet to get a foothold on the American thing, because neither Sabbath nor our little band wrote singles. So we were outsiders. But everybody started talking about Sabbath. Are you kidding? From the first advertisement in Rolling Stone, Black Sabbath, louder than Led Zeppelin. I went, wow, louder? Cool. And then, of course, when you saw them live, you saw this madman on stage that simply didn't try to, shake his hips and pucker up and wear girls' clothing on stage, which is fine. Everybody's got to find their own thing. Ozzy was decided that you couldn't point your finger to who it was that inspired Ozzy to be on stage. It was just you saw him and your jaw dropped, without sticking his tongue out, without breathing fire, without any of the other stuff I had to do. This guy just walked out and it said madness followed him.
Gene, I was going to say, he was an original, wasn't he? There's never been anything like him before or since.
Yeah, there really hasn't been. And you wonder where he got it. He just was the enigma of all enigmas, because when you talk to Ozzy, hey, what are some of your favorite bands? He would say ABBA. How does that connect? And Beatles was his favorite band, mine too. And then somehow that inspiration, the bands he liked, stayed over there in the corner. And when he got up on stage with his stagecraft, learned from nowhere and from no one, he created himself, which is the highest flattery you can hurl at anybody. But while media and idiots like me will talk about what he meant and musical, and all this kind of stuff, he was a wonderful father, husband, great kids, and you saw his reality show and all that. What can you say? Just a heartbreaking event. There's just no words. Just terrible.
What did you learn from Ozzy? And when was the last time you had a chance to see him?
Ozzy seems to have always marched to the beat of his own drummer. I guess life is a journey or a race. I could never imagine Ozzy looking around or behind him to see who else is running the race.
Mm-hmm.
He was always Ozzy. He never acquiesced. He never tried to figure out what's popular, what's not. He was always, a singularity, as unique as the fingerprints that we all have that make us unique individuals. He somehow knew that deep inside, no matter how many other bands come and go and come and go, and they do, somehow he seemed to realize Ozzy will always be here. And he will, because right now, as we're talking about the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, there are millions of fans around the world who are grieving, obviously, but they're putting on Sabbath records, and the legend continues.
And also, you have to think about this, Gene. You can't go into a single sports arena without hearing an Ozzy Osbourne song like Crazy Train or hearing a Kiss song. You two have those anthems that will, forever be linked with sports and different things and played, and you will live forever because of it.
Well, I don't think Ozzy ever thought about living forever or anything. He seemed to me always about here and now. And any show, and I've seen many Sabbath shows, any show Ozzy was ever at, it was always right now. I'm here, and this is going to be the best show the fans have ever seen. And that's high praise, because there are a lot of people that tug on their shirt sleeves and say, I'm kind of a big deal. You know what I've done in the past? Actually, he never talked about the past. He was always a here and now kind of guy, which is really refreshing.
What were your emotions like watching that final concert, or at least knowing about that final concert, especially since you were there basically in the beginning?
Heartbreaking to see Ozzy in a throne, unable to stand up and do that. And yet, the energy that came out of that, with his arms flailing and his face and his contortions, you would never imagine that a week later he would be gone. You just couldn't imagine. Other than the fact that he couldn't get up out of his throne, out of his chair, Ozzy seemed healthy and fine.
Have you had a chance to reach out to Sharon and the family?
I have not. I just found out 2 hours ago, and we're certainly going to do that, of course.
Ozzy also made his mark on television, and he was an icon of reality TV. Really, he was there in the beginning.
Don't drink, don't take drugs, Tom.
No, I don't do
Please.
that. I don't do that.
And if you have sex, wear a condom.
What did that show, The Osbournes, do for reality TV, and how did it change the landscape of the way that Ozzy and other rockers were looked at?
Well, you look at Ozzy on stage and you think you know the man, and then you realize he's got a family, and actually you don't know him at all. You knew Ozzy, but until you saw the reality show, hey, if there wasn't an Osbournes, there wouldn't have been a Gene Simmons Family Jewels. We had our own reality show, and you think you know somebody on stage, but no, you will be judged above and beyond what you do on stage or what you do for a living or your passion. You will be judged by your family, your marriage, that is your legacy, and your fans, obviously. And that story speaks volumes.
When you think back and you remember Ozzy, what will be the moment or the story that'll make you smile when you think about Ozzy concert?
One of the first, in those days we used to travel around in cars and exhausted, just get into the town just in time to do the concert. And one of the first shows, Providence, Rhode Island, and Sabbath is late. They're late by an hour and going on stage. Nobody can figure out what had happened. Later on, we found out that they all checked into a hotel, and Ozzy apparently had been dog-tired and was wandering the hallways and had forgotten which room he was in. There was an open door, so he walked into the room and locked the door and fell asleep because he was asleep. But of course, it was the wrong room, and they couldn't find him. Ozzy Osbourne. Unique. There's never going to be another one. Never has been one.